You don't expect betrayal to walk into your life wearing a familiar face. You expect it to come from strangers, from enemies, from people who never mattered. But not from the ones you built your life around. Not from the ones you trusted without thinking twice. You remember how easy it all felt. How natural. You had a system, a rhythm. A driver who showed up every day without fail. A wife who knew your silence better than your words. You weren't careless. You were comfortable. And comfort has a dangerous way of blinding you. That day didn't feel different at first. It was routine. Just another errand. You handed over the keys like you always did. No hesitation. No second thought. Why would you? Trust doesn't question. It just exists until it doesn't. But then something shifted. Not loud. Not obvious. Just off. A delay that stretched a little too long. A silence that felt heavier than it should. You tried to ignore it. Told yourself you were overthinking. Because that's what you do when your world feels slightly out of place. You protect it. You defend it. You refuse to see cracks where you've only known strength. And then came that moment. The one you wish you could erase. You weren't even looking for answers. You were just passing time. A random decision. Something small. But sometimes the smallest choices open doors you can never close again. You hit play. And suddenly, everything you believed in started collapsing in real time. It wasn't just what you saw. It was how normal it looked to them. The laughter. The ease. The way they existed together like you were never part of the equation. In your car. In your space. In the life you built. That's what really breaks you. Not just the betrayal, but the realization that while you were trusting, they were comfortable crossing lines you didn't even know existed. Your chest tightens. Your thoughts scatter. You try to make sense of it, to find some version of reality where this isn't happening. But there's no escape, no alternative meaning. Just truth, raw and unforgiving, staring back at you. And in that moment, something inside you shifts. Not loudly, not dramatically, but permanently. You start to see things differently. Not just them, but yourself. The way you gave without questioning. The way you trusted without boundaries. The way you built your world assuming loyalty was guaranteed. It wasn't. And that realization cuts deeper than anything else. Because now you understand, betrayal doesn't just break your heart. It rewrites your awareness. It forces you to confront the parts of yourself that chose comfort over clarity. You can't unsee it. You can't undo it. But you can decide what it turns you into. And right there, in the middle of that pain, that humiliation, that suffocating truth, a new version of you begins to take shape. One that doesn't ignore the silence. One that doesn't mistake familiarity for loyalty. One that sees clearly even when it hurts. You think the pain will hit once sharp, unbearable, and then fade. But it doesn't. It repeats. It loops. It drags you back in again and again until you don't even recognize what you're feeling anymore. You watched it more than once. Not because you wanted to suffer, but because your mind refused to accept it. You kept hoping you missed something. A detail. A context. Anything that could make it less real. Less final. But every time you press play, it got worse. Not different worse. Because now you weren't just seeing it. You were understanding it. The way she smiled wasn't nervous. It wasn't guilty. It was natural. Like she had done 100 times before. And him, he wasn't hesitant. He wasn't crossing a line in fear. He was comfortable. Settled. Like he belonged there. That's when it hit you. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was a pattern. A routine you were never meant to discover. And something inside you started breaking in a completely different way. Not loud. Not explosive. Just heavy. Like your chest couldn't carry the weight of what you now knew. But you still needed answers. Or maybe you needed to hear her say it. To confirm what your eyes had already seen. Because a part of you, the part that loved her, was still holding on. Still searching for a version of her that wouldn't do this to you. So you confronted her. And in that moment, everything slowed down. Every word, every expression, every second felt stretched, like your entire life was balancing on what she would say next. She looked at you, and she lied. Without hesitation. Without a crack in her voice. She denied it like the truth didn't exist. Like what you saw was nothing. Like you were the one imagining things. And that did something to you. Because betrayal is one thing. But being made to feel crazy for seeing the truth, that's something else entirely. That's where confusion starts to take over. That's where your mind turns against you. For a second, you almost question yourself. Almost. Until you showed her the video. And that's when the shift happened. Not the kind you expected. Not guilt. Not immediate regret. Not the collapse you thought would come from being exposed. She cried, yes. But her tears didn't feel like remorse. They felt like defense. And then she did something you weren't prepared for. She blamed you. Said you were too busy. Too distant. That you weren't there enough. And suddenly, the betrayal wasn't just physical anymore. It became something deeper, twisted, psychological. Because now, she wasn't just someone who hurt you. She was someone trying to rewrite the story where you were the reason it happened. And that cuts deeper than anything you saw on that screen. Because now, you're not just dealing with what they did. You're dealing with what she's trying to make you believe about yourself. You start replaying your own actions, questioning your own choices, wondering if somehow, somewhere, you failed without realizing it. And that's the trap. That's how the pain spreads. Not just through what happened, but through what it turns you into. Anger starts building, but it's not clean. It's mixed with confusion, with disbelief, with a quiet voice in your head asking questions you never thought you'd ask. Was I not enough? Did I miss something? Can I have stopped this? And the truth is, those questions will eat you alive if you let them. Because this was never about your absence. It was about her choices, her decisions, her willingness to cross lines while you were still standing on the other side, believing they even mattered. And deep down, you know that. Even if it hurts to accept, even if it shatters everything you thought was real. Because now, the pain isn't just coming from what you lost. It's coming from realizing you were standing alone in something you thought you were building together. And that realization doesn't just break your heart. It forces you to wake up. You thought you had already seen the worst of it. You thought the moment you press play, that was the breaking point. But you were wrong. That was just the surface. What came after, that's what truly changed you. You didn't hesitate with him. Rashid was gone the moment the truth became undeniable. No confrontation, no shouting, no explanation. Just a decision, cold, immediate, final. Because some lines, once crossed, don't deserve a conversation. They deserve an ending. But ending him didn't end anything inside you. Because now your mind wouldn't stop. It kept circling back, asking questions you didn't want answers to. How long? How often? How deep did this go? And that's when you made the mistake that most people make when they're already bleeding. You started digging. At first, it was small things. Dates that didn't match. Timings that fell off. Routes that made no sense. You told yourself you were just confirming what you already knew. But the deeper you went, the uglier it became. This wasn't new. This wasn't weeks. This was months. Maybe longer. Patterns started forming in your head, and each one felt heavier than the last. Different routes taken for no reason. Stops that were never mentioned. Time that disappeared without explanation. And suddenly your car, something so normal, so ordinary, turned into something else entirely. It wasn't just a vehicle anymore. It was their space, their secret, the place where they got comfortable while you stayed blind. And that realization hit differently. Because you knew that car, every inch of it. You sat in it every day. You took calls in it, made decisions that shaped your life in it, trusted it to carry you safely through your routine. And all that time, it was holding something else, something you were never meant to see. You start to feel it now, that quiet shift inside you. The anger isn't loud anymore. It's not explosive. It's controlled, focused, almost cold. Because this isn't just about betrayal anymore. It's about awareness. And awareness comes with a different kind of pain. The kind that doesn't scream, it settles. Then came the moment that sealed it. A small comment. Casual. Almost accidental. One of your staff members, someone who had been around long enough to notice things others wouldn't, hinted at it. Not directly. Not clearly. But enough for you to understand. They had seen something. Not everything, but enough. A look. A pattern. A behavior that didn't feel right. And they said nothing. That's when it all clicked in a way you weren't prepared for. This wasn't just happening behind your back. It was happening in front of people. There were signs, moments, opportunities for someone, anyone, to speak up. But no one did. And suddenly, the betrayal expands. It's not just two people anymore. It's the silence around them, the quiet observations, the unspoken truths that everyone kept to themselves while you lived in a version of reality that didn't exist. You weren't just betrayed. You were the last to know. And there's something deeply unsettling about that. Something that shifts the way you see everything. Because now, it's not just about trust being broken. It's about realizing how easily you were left in the dark. How comfortably people let you stay there. That's when something inside you changes permanently. Not your ability to feel, but your willingness to ignore. You stop looking at things the same way. You start noticing what you used to overlook. You start questioning what once felt certain. And it's not because you've become paranoid. It's because you've become aware. Pain did that. It stripped away the comfort, the assumptions, the blind trust you once carried without effort. Now, everything is clearer, sharper, and colder, because you understand something you didn't before. It's not just the betrayal that breaks you. It's the realization that it existed for so long without you ever seeing it. And once you see that truth, you can never go back to who you were before. At some point, the noise inside you just stops. Not because the pain is gone, not because you've healed, but because you've said everything that needed to be said and none of it changed anything. The anger, the questions, the confrontations, they all start to feel pointless. Like throwing words into a space that no longer holds meaning. So you go quiet. And that silence? It's not weakness. It's a decision. You stop reacting the way she expects. No more arguments. No more late-night conversations trying to understand. No more giving her access to your emotions like they still belong to her. You pull back, not dramatically, not loudly, but completely. And it confuses her, because she was ready for chaos. Ready for shouting, for blame, for you to stay emotionally tangled so she could still feel connected to you in some way. But silence gives her nothing to hold on to. It scares her, because for the first time, she can't read you. While she's trying to figure out what you're thinking, you've already moved past the need to explain yourself. You file for divorce quietly. No announcement, no warning, just a step forward that doesn't involve her permission or her understanding. And that's when the real shift begins. Not in your situation, but in you. You stop pouring your energy into what broke you. You redirect it into your work, into your body, into your mind. You start showing up for yourself in ways you never did before. Not to prove anything, not to impress anyone, just because you finally understand what it costs to neglect your own life. And it's not easy. There are days where the silence feels heavy, where memories try to pull you back into who you used to be. But you don't fight them anymore. You just don't follow them. That's the difference. And somewhere in that process, you meet her, Maya. She doesn't walk in like a solution. She doesn't try to fix what's broken or dig into your past like it's a story she needs to understand. There's no pressure with her, no expectations, just a quiet presence that doesn't demand anything from you. And that's exactly what you needed. Because for the first time in a long time, you're not being seen through the lens of what happened to you. You're just being seen as you are. She talks to you like you still have value, like you didn't lose something that defines your worth, like you're not damaged. And at first, you don't believe it. Not fully, but something about the way she exists around you, calm, steady, real, it starts to shift something inside you. Slowly, subtly, without forcing it, you begin to remember who you were before everything broke. Not the naive version, not the one who trusted blindly, but the one who had direction, strength, presence. And this time, it's different, because now it's built on awareness. Months pass, and your life starts to change in ways you didn't expect. Your focus sharpens. Your decisions become clearer. Your business grows, not because you're chasing success, but because you're finally consistent with yourself. You feel stronger, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally. There's a control in you now that wasn't there before. Not control over others, control over yourself. And that changes everything. Meanwhile, her world starts shifting too, but not in the same direction. You hear things, small updates, fragments of a life that's slowly losing its stability. Not because you stepped in to destroy it, but because the choices she made are finally catching up to her. And for a moment, you pause. Not out of satisfaction, Not out of revenge, but out of realization. You didn't need to ruin her. She was already on that path. All you had to do was step out of it. And that's when it truly hits you. The power you were searching for wasn't in reacting. It wasn't in exposing, arguing, or proving anything. It was in choosing yourself without needing anyone else to validate that choice. That silence you chose, it didn't just scare her. It rebuilt you. You always imagine that if they ever come back, it will mean something, that your heart will react, that old emotions will rise, that there will be some kind of storm inside you, anger, pain, maybe even a trace of love. But when that moment finally arrives, you feel nothing, just stillness. She stood there, right in front of you, the same face, the same voice, but everything else was different. The energy, the presence, the way she held herself, it wasn't the person you once knew. It was someone carrying the weight of her own choices. And you could see it, the cracks, the regret, the quiet desperation behind her eyes. She spoke fast at first, like she was afraid silence would swallow her whole. Words spilling out, apologies, explanations, promises. She called a mistake, said she missed you, said her life didn't turn out the way she thought it would. And for a moment, you just listened. Not because you were considering anything, but because you needed to see if there was still something inside you that reacted to her. There wasn't. No anger rising in your chest. No urge to argue, to question, to make her feel what you once felt. And more importantly, no pull to go back. That's when you realize how far you've come. Because there was a time when just hearing her voice would have shaken you. A time when you would have searched her face for honesty, for something real to hold on to. But now, you're not searching anymore. You've already found what you needed within yourself. She kept talking, her voice breaking now, her confidence fading with every word. You could see her trying to reach something in you, trying to remind you of what you once had, trying to pull you back into a version of yourself that no longer exists. But you're not there anymore. You're not the man who ignored the signs. You're not the man who explained away discomfort just to keep things together. And you're definitely not the man who would accept being disrespected just to avoid being alone. So when she finally stopped, when the silence settled between you, you spoke. Calm, clear, final. You didn't just cheat. The words didn't come from pain. They came from understanding. You disrespected me in the worst way possible. And that's what she never fully understood. Because pain can be processed. It can be healed over time. It leaves scars, yes, but scars fade. They become part of your story without controlling it. But humiliation? That's different. Humiliation changes how you see yourself, if you let it. And you didn't. That's why you're standing here now, looking at her without bitterness, without hatred, without the need to break her the way she once broke you. Because life already did that. Not through revenge, not through your actions, but through consequences she couldn't escape. You see it in the way she stands now. Uncertain, fragile, stripped of the confidence she once had when she thought she wouldn't get caught, or worse, thought it wouldn't matter. And for the first time, you understand something clearly. You don't need to fix this. You don't need to respond to her pain. You don't even need to forgive her to move on. Because you already have. Not for her. For yourself. You took everything that was meant to destroy you, and you turned it into something solid. Something grounded. Something that no one else can shake. And that's why this moment feels different than you imagined. It's not dramatic. It's not emotional. It's quiet. Final. You take one last look at her. Not with love, not with anger, but with acceptance of what is and what will never be again. And then you step back. Not out of fear. Not out of weakness. But because you finally understand your worth doesn't exist in someone else's regret. It exists in your ability to walk away, even when they come back. And as you close that door for the last time, there's no weight left on your chest. No questions. No unfinished thoughts. Just space. Just clarity. Just freedom.